18 after 7. Oopsie daisy. It was an honest mistake. Or was it? So even as we told you just weeks ago that the Gauteng Department of Health has failed to pay some overworked and overstressed doctors and is not appointing more, it still paid a whopping 6.4 million rand in salaries to ghosts. Isboho, dispuku. These are workers who do not exist, and they're not the only ones. The Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa has been losing up to 20 million rand a year, paying over 1,000 workers no one has ever seen. So these are revelations from investigations by the Special Investigating Unit. We've heard the same from the auditor-general. A widespread practice within the state that is wasting taxpayer funds. The chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on the Public Service says these aren't just clerical errors, but organized and systemic corruption. Joins us now on the line. Jan de Villiers, appreciate your time and welcome to our show.
Good morning, Bongani, and good morning to your listeners.
What is a ghost worker?
Well, quite frankly, clearly it's just someone who's being paid, so it's a name on the payroll system, but the person doesn't exist. But behind the ghost, the person who doesn't exist, is real people and real bank accounts and real taxpayer money being siphoned into the pockets of criminals.
How widespread is this practice?
Well, that is exactly the problem. So we do not actually know how widespread the practice is. And the reason for this is that every single government department is decentralized in the way that they appoint their public servants. So what's happened is there's been no centralized audit or standard or framework on how to identify ghost workers. And the result is that where there's been, like the examples you've mentioned, at PRASA, at the Department of Health in Gauteng, where there's been these small little audits of single departments, ghost workers have been found, and as you mentioned, in Gauteng, in the Department of Health, up to 230 people, just in one department, 230 ghosts have been found. And this is very concerning because obviously government is very big. There are various departments across government. So we can safely assume that there are thousands of ghost workers who have not been
identified.
Discovered. Yes, and that they exist over all spheres of government: national, provincial, local, state-owned entities, agencies, the works.
Gosh, I mean, I don't know if you've got examples at your fingertips in terms of either shocking amounts or numbers of people on the payroll of a single entity.
So, I mean, the one example you gave is the 230 people in the Gauteng Health Department. The other one that was just discovered was about 6.5 million rand worth of ghost employer salaries being paid in the Department of Education in Mpumalanga. But these are these are almost like little samples of the real problem. And then I think what we've seen as a committee by the last presentation from the Department of Public Service is that what really is needed now is a national audit conducted by the National Treasury and the Department of Public Service, as well as being supported by the Auditor-General, so that we can start setting standards on how to find and identify these ghost workers. But Bongani, it is one thing to identify these ghost workers. What we must really achieve, and this must be the important follow-up to identifying ghost workers, is that we must see people being investigated and we must see people going to jail. There must be consequences. This is a form of corruption. It is organized, and it is 100% criminal syndicates operating inside government.
Because you say it takes at least 3 people within the system to collude to create a ghost worker.
100%, and that's what we've seen. We've seen that these people are being created by at least 3 people who verify the loading of this false information onto the system, which means that people have to collude, as you correctly say. But
I mean, maybe I'm a layperson and I don't understand how human capital systems work, but I would imagine there must be, at least at every entity or department, some centralized HR process that's able to look and have a bird's eye view of the people that are claimed to be working there. I mean, for example, every worker must at some point get a salary increase, right? So who approves these salary increases or adjustments for people that don't exist? Somebody must be in charge of a budget. They must be able to say, we've spent X amount on salaries of these people, and they must surely have some proof they exist.
I mean, you are 100% correct. And that is why we say there is definite collusion and that it's criminal syndicates that are operating. Because in your example, what you very clearly illustrated is that it's not by chance that this happens. It's not accidents. You need department heads, you need HR managers, you need people who work with the finances. You need a lot of people to actually work together to keep this scheme going. But if for years it's not been exposed, and if for years there's not been anybody sent to jail, anybody convicted of this practice, then what's going to happen? People are just going to increase the practice, and it's going to happen more and more. And that's why the government of national unity, one of our statements of intent is that we must professionalize the state service. Professionalizing the state service means that we have to absolutely get rid of these ghost workers and get rid of the people behind the ghost workers, that we must stop the systemic corruption in the state.
It really is breathtaking, actually, when you think about it. As you say, it's been going on for years. There are a lot of people who are comfortable that the system is working and undetectable, and even in the examples where it has been identified, as you say, no one has gone to jail. Jan de Villiers, appreciate your time, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on the Public Service. Just think about that, hey? Think about that. There is a Joe somewhere raking in millions, whilst the people who are doing the real work are suffering and struggling and toing for their salaries. And somebody's laughing all the way to the bank.
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions.
Your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.